Yeah, I've been lucky along the way, obviously to sign for such a wonderful club like Manchester United. I've had a career of falling out with managers. And I think that's how the manager was able to sign me in the end, because I fell out with Kevin Keegan.
I can still remember walking outside of school. My dad came to school, so I knew something had happened, and we were both crying our eyes out because all I ever wanted was a chance to play for United.
I got scouted for United when I was 9. There was lots of clubs wanted me to come and trial, and I always said no. There's one place I want to go, and that's Man United, and luckily I got there.
More from Andy, Gary and Johnny shortly. Well, first, a quick update on what this evening achieved. Since being stripped of their £40,000 a year sponsorship by Jim Ratcliffe, the Association of Former Manchester United Players feared it was the end of the road for their long-running charity. Ratcliffe's brutal cost-cutting was universally condemned by fans, former players and the wider football community. But the AFMUP were determined to celebrate their 40th anniversary, and they defiantly carried on to do just that, with little help from their friends, including some influential figures from Manchester United Football Club.
Omar, it's fantastic to see how the former players have lasted 40 years and have got this great dinner tonight.
Yeah, very happy to be here and to support the association. They do an incredible job for the former players, and we're glad that we've been able to set up this dinner to be able to help them out, raise funds and cook some new supporting players that have brought so much success to the club.
You're relatively new to the club, but obviously since you've been here, you've got a real taste of the history of Manchester United. It's very important to the club, isn't it?
It's an incredible club. It's the fans are so passionate. You see it here in Old Trafford. You see it around the world. We're very privileged and fortunate to be part of this club. So we're going to try to do our best to bring it back to the top.
Gary, 40 years for the former players. What a great achievement!
Oh, it's absolutely incredible when you think that organisations get set up such a long time ago, and obviously we've always been aware of it. It was set up sort of very much at the start of when I joined the club as nearly an 11-year-old. It's been going all that time. A lot of very special people have kept it going. So, yeah, tonight's a great night.
It means a lot to the old boys to see some of the younger faces here tonight.
Yeah, Jimmy rang me about a month or so ago, and he told me that Andy Cole had won the award and said that he couldn't attend. So I said, well, okay, then I'll speak for him. But then Cole is here, so we're all here tonight. Johnny Evans is here as well. And obviously David's here, David Gill, Omar's here, the CEO, so it's a good turn. Oh, and the manager's here as well, Sir Alex.
A stellar lineup gathered at Old Trafford for a hugely successful grand reunion dinner that honoured our treble-winning striker Andrew Cole. Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill have both been long-time supporters of the former Players Association, and once again they were there, this time along with current CEO Omar Berrada. Now, credit where credit is due, and I've got to applaud Omar Berrada and other senior staff at the football club for finding new ways to help support the Association of Former Manchester United Players. Their support has proved a lifeline for the AFMUP, an organisation that helps former players on low income and a whole host of local charities.
We've all worked hard to maintain the Association of Former Manchester United Players. And hopefully we've got some younger ones to take it over when we're a bit too old to do that.
Truth is, last week's support by the football club made the 40th anniversary dinner a hugely successful event, and the money raised on the night will help offset the loss of the precious sponsorship that previously cash flowed the AFMUP charity. Whether or not that level of support will continue remains to be seen. But so far, Omar Berrada deserves huge credit. Not only did he make sure the club filled and paid for a VIP table at the dinner, he sanctioned the club donating some high-ticket auction prizes that included match tickets to the director's box, and that gift alone raised thousands of pounds on the night.
I think it's safe to say we've never had this at the former players' dinner before, so thank you very much indeed to Omar and everybody who's kindly put this forward. We have 4 seats with hospitality at a match of mutual agreement for next season, which are in and will be in the director's box seats.
It was brilliant to see Johnny Evans represent the current first team squad. And like Omar Berrada, Johnny made a special request to be there on the night. Our much loved academy graduate is a lifelong supporter of Manchester United. Other former players at the dinner included 1977 FA Cup winning captain Martin Buchan and Sammy McIlroy, who famously became the last Busby Babe when he was signed by Sir Matt back in 1969. Brian Kidd, our 1968 European Cup winner, another regular supporter of the AFMUP, is pictured here with former player Peter Woods and his daughters. The highlight of the night, of course, was that fascinating question and answer with Johnny Evans, Gary Neville and Andrew Cole, the night's guest of honour. Cole, the latest former player to join the prestigious group of United's most celebrated heroes who have been honoured by the AFMUP down the years. To sign off this special two-part programme, here's the second half of that on-stage chat with the voice of Old Trafford, Alan Keegan.
Gary, 99, when you reflect on it, I mean, I know we spoke many times, but just give us that overview for you personally. Again, you know, born and bred within the club, it's, you know, you bleed red, you are, you know, Gary Neville as a red. What was it like for you?
I mean, it was unbelievable. It was the best time of our lives. You know, we were obviously, I was 24 at the time. Quite a number of us were 24, and you knew that after that game, it was probably the best thing that was ever going to happen in our lives, and it was never going to be surpassed. So many games that season. We came back. It was obviously a trait of all the bosses' teams that we would never give in, always go to the end, wear teams down. We always had strikers and options off the bench, and to be fair, we always had lots of players in the box at the end of matches. And similar to last weekend, when you think of the bodies in the box and sort of things happening and you just feel that momentum building, it started and changed, I think, around Christmas. We weren't doing that well, I don't think, up until Christmas. We were a bit scruffy, a bit scrappy. And then the Liverpool game in the FA Cup just was the first real sign that something happened. And from that moment on, it was just incredible. The last 10 days were the best 10 days of my life. We'll never ever be better. Just the idea of those people that were in the dressing room, the people in the stands, the staff. We'd been together for so long, and it was an amazing time. It was really special. And you know, Cole is what you mentioned before. We talk about players under pressure, and you look back sometimes at the era where we played. There were challenging times. You know, when Coley talks about '95, we were talking about it before, about the pressure that he was under in that first season with that, you know, that fee that obviously the club paid for him. And the same with Teddy in '98 when he replaced Eric. You know, he came under a lot of pressure as well. And obviously they had to come through that. So those times did happen back then where players were put under extreme pressure but came through it. And the brilliant thing about our dressing room was we had brilliant strikers always. There were always players that could deliver big moments. And that was something that, particularly as a defender, you were always grateful for. You know, just the special players in front of you would change the game, and Coley was one of them.
Gary Neville, ladies and gentlemen, great to get this input, Gary. Johnny, I mean, you know, you've lived United, you've supported them since you were a young boy in Northern Ireland, coming from a football family. Just give us some of your memories of playing for Manchester United, your fondest memories, your greatest moments, because, I mean, obviously you went away for a while, you've come back, so give us a trip down memory lane.
I suppose you always think of the most recent ones, and I can go back to last year being part of the club, to winning the FA Cup was incredible. My first game when I came back, and I suppose before that, winning my first league title. I suppose as a player, you always have that. You're in a dressing room with players at that time when I came in, players who'd won it many, many times, and you want to feel like you're part of that and feel like you've also got a medal and you can say you've contributed. I think at that time, Gaz, I don't know how many medals or Premier League trophies you'd probably won at that stage, but for me to get my first one and be part of a squad to do that was a great way to sort of start off my Man United career as a first-team player. And I suppose like winning the trophies, there's nothing better than, you know, especially at Wembley. I was fortunate that the boss was amazing at playing young lads and giving young lads a chance. And my first season back at the club, I played in every game all the way to the Carling Cup final or the League Cup final, and the boss played me in the final 2 years in a row, which we won. So grateful for that.
Doesn't get any better as a fan, does it, everybody? Absolutely fantastic memories. Andrew, the boss is in the room. I think we've got to talk about the hairdryer, because everybody always asks us.
I didn't get it.
You never got it?
I did.
If you can see the boss's face now. We're going to ask both of you this one. Have you got an example of where perhaps you experienced it?
Yeah, I think all three of us sitting here have experienced it. I mean, when I first joined the club, and I remember the boys saying to me, first thing you got to do is don't lose the ball 5 minutes before half time or 5 minutes before the end of the game. I'm like, why? Because whatever's in his head, he'll lose it. I thought nothing of it. And then I came in one day and he went off on someone. I went, oh my God, what is that? You can't do that.
Is this the first time you saw it?
First time I saw it.
Right.
And
you're not naming names?
Yeah, I'm not naming names, no. But, yeah, my experience of the hairdryer was what it was. I had a great one out here when we played Chelsea. We drew 1-1, and I've got in. I've slipped on the goalkeeper, and Graham Lassol slid in, hit him on the back of the leg, hit the top of the crossbar, and gone over. And I thought I was unlucky, to be fair. I come that full time, the gaffer's gone absolutely ballistic. You greedy this, you greedy that. I'm like, boss, he's actually done his job, he's defended. You this, you that. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. And with the boss as well, you know, don't argue back because you just escalate things. I had a little go back and then I just asked, okay, forget about it. But in the end, I got used to him. Look, I think three of us sitting here, we have great respect and admiration for him. You know, and for me personally, what I know, all he ever wanted from his players was to give 100%. And if you give him 100%, he's more than happy with that. So,
brilliant.
I think we all appreciate him.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Gary, would you like to share perhaps a moment where you first saw it and perhaps where you had it on a personal level?
The first time I ever saw it was in Torpedo Moscow. I made my debut in '92 at Torpedo Moscow here at Old Trafford. And to be fair, the boss went a little bit at the end of the game at Gary Pallister because I had a long throw-in the touchline, and he said, do you not watch the effing youth team to Gary Pallister? Because Gary Pallister didn't go up for the long throw-in, so he gave Gary Pallister a little bit of one. But in the away game, the boss might remember more than me. There were two, I think it was Bruce who missed a penalty, and I think Brian McClare might have missed a penalty, and it all went off in the end. And there was Brian Robson was in there, Hughes, Cantona, Schmeichel, and I just thought they were all absolutely fucking mad. The lot of them, I'm excuse me to explain, I just thought they were all crazy. I remember me and Bex travelled with Ben Thornley, and the boss used to take us as young players to help with the kit with Norman Williams, but also just to experience sort of the idea of sort of being with the first team because he was trying to sort of bring us through. And I remember once at Liverpool with Peter Schmeichel, I'd travelled that day to help with the kit. And but it was once, twice a season, and it always came from a good place, that competitiveness, that environment to win. And, there were things that you knew you were going to get, it was going to happen. And that happened with me a couple of times a season, usually, with everybody, because you knew full well that competitive environment and the way in which we all were. But we were all in a position whereby we wanted that. I feel like we needed it. I feel quite lucky to have come through in a dressing room where the manager was as he was, but also when the players in the dressing room, the likes of Incy and Roy and Peter and Brucey and Brian, they were all incredibly demanding people in the dressing room and actually in the coaching staff. Eric Harrison, Brian Kidd, Nobby Stiles, they all demanded a lot from you all the time, so you had nowhere to go. So it wasn't just the boss, it was everybody in the football club, and like you say, it demanded that sort of intensity all the time from you. And I think, like I say, it was incredible to be around, but you knew full well that you had to be at it every single day.
I know when we've spoken before and you've mentioned some amazing names there that have had an impact and an influence on you, and I think it's fitting that we mention this next gentleman because we've got the boss here, but the big impact that Eric Harrison had on you young guys coming through.
Honestly, I genuinely feel that, look, there were people in my life that I feel if they hadn't been in my life, that I wouldn't be where I am today. There are some in this room, the boss, obviously, number one, Brian's over there, things that they said to me that I still remember to this day about, the principles and values of what you do every single day in training. But Eric Harrison, I think at the age of 16 to 18, I think he grabbed hold of me, and all of us really, but he grabbed hold of me, and I felt like he almost made me a football player. Just his attention to detail, the level of sort of work that he put into us, he made me understand football, he made me understand my position. And he was hard work to play for, you know what I mean? He was demanding, he was aggressive, he was a tough Yorkshireman, and he had Nobby alongside him. And Nobby's, to be fair, phrase before every single game were that you basically the studs on the bottom of your boot were your best friends. So you knew full well every single time that you went out, you were being told you couldn't lose a tackle, you couldn't lose a header. It was a crime to lose a tackle or a header. You know, that was the way in which it sort of went with us, and those things that were put into us from 16 or 18. Eric Harrison was absolutely vital in my life. I miss him so much because he was a brilliant man.
Yeah, and a great precursor before the boss. Thank you, Gary. Johnny, the three of you played with some amazing players. Who are the players that stand out for you? You know, obviously, a couple of people have asked me to ask the three of you questions tonight. Best players that you've played with for Manchester United?
I never actually played with Coley, so I can't include Coley in that. I'd say Scholesy. Scholesy and Giggsy, for me, were... I always felt like they were on another level. Even in their later years, there was something about them. Gaz will probably attest to that they were at a level that I probably couldn't even understand as a player, and they would do things on the training pitch. So I'd probably say them too, but, you know, like Gaz has said before, and Coley, and all the lads in the dressing room were such, you know, high quality players, forwards that could score goals. So been very fortunate over the years, but those two stand out probably.
It's not a bad two, is it, ladies and gentlemen? We'll take that one. Andrew, players that you played with at United, who stands out? I mean, I think I've got to mention Yorkie, because that was telepathic, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was made in the heavens, that one. But yeah, I'm very honest. I was fortunate to play for such a great club like Manchester United. So when you talk about the players that have represented this football club, I remember my first day walking in and training at Old Trafford, and walked into the dressing room, looking at Schmeichs, Bruce Pallister, Ince, Keane, you know, Sparky,
Gary
Chucky. Never, I didn't know who it was, to be fair. And yeah, I mean, you get to that stage when you start to reminisce a little bit, and then Johnny's touched on there, Scholesy, Keeney, Giggsy, all fantastic players that I've had the honour to play with. You know, I'm not sure they'll say that about me, but, you know, for me to have the honour to play with these players and have the opportunity to be in the same dressing room, to compete with them, has been really, really special, definitely.
And I know when we spoke about Yorkie before, it wasn't something you worked at really, wasn't it? It was something that kicked in straight away. It was that natural understanding between you both, wasn't it?
Yeah, when I finally got a game, yeah, it worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gaffer finally gave me a game with York against Southampton at the Old Dell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like it's yesterday. The gaffer said to me, "Well, let's see what you got today, Coley." I said, "Okay, not a problem." Went out there and enjoyed it, and then from then the partnership was born. I think Yorkie just brought so much out of me. Chalk and cheese as individuals, but the way we played out there on a football pitch, and obviously never be a testament to that as well. We just went out there and enjoyed it. And the manager was massive on getting the ball to the strikers as quick as possible. And then we was fortunate to be able to do our business. So yeah, it was a great partnership, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Gary, same with you. I mean, I know you mentioned some big influential people in your life when you were a young boy coming through, but the players you played with, just reflect on a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, the best partnership, obviously, that I ever played with was Coley and Yorkie. I mentioned the Liverpool game before, obviously, in terms of the 99 season, but obviously around sort of September, October, when you started playing together, it was incredible. And actually, when that partnership started, it actually meant that Ollie and Teddy got better when they started playing with each other. The four of them all combined unbelievably well, but them two were just sensational. But I'd probably go for Roy, Ryan and Scholesy as being the three players, just for longevity and consistency and reliability. I think Cristiano, for a period of 2 or 3 years, from 2006 to 2009, was probably something that I've never seen in my life. I've never seen football played like that in respect of an individual player. That was like a sort of different level, but in respect of consistency and reliability for a long period of time at United. And I always go for Scholesy, just because I've known him since he was 13. And the testament for me was that we played always lots of possession in training, just constantly played possession, tempo, passing, possession in training. And whoever's team Scholesy was on had the most of the ball. Fact. It's just dominated the entirety of the game. And in a game where at Old Trafford you might have a difficult moment, or you might have a difficult game away, when you knew that ultimately you need to be able to pass a ball into somebody, you could always give him the ball in any situation. He'd always take it. And I think he's the best player that I ever played with, just because of his influence in the style of the way in which we played, and the influence on our game. I just felt he was incredible.
I think, or do you think it was a big help, the fact that yourself, I think it was Scholes and Butty played in a team, was it?
Boundary Park, yeah. To be honest with you, we were talking before about the fact that, you know, we did a lot of possession-based stuff. We did a lot of sort of short, sharp stuff in training that was really lively. It was aggressive. Intensity was really high. The tempo of the passing was quick, and we always, the values and principles were that we had to get it into the strikers and the forwards with quality as quickly as possible. So we knew exactly what we had to do. But there was a telepathy in the game, you know, in terms of, you know, if Denis played, Scholes always played sort of left of the central midfield. I knew that if Denis had it and he was going to play it into Scholes, I knew Scholes, he'd already seen Becks, and he'd always get out of his feet, and I'd already be gone. So there's an understanding already that I'd then be going round Becks, he'd ignore me, he'd cross it. Or that he'd use me and then he'd play and feed that one into Coley or Yorkie's feet or Teddy's feet or whoever was playing up front. So there were patterns of play that you just got used to through playing with each other. It was absolutely incredible, really. We didn't really do a lot of patterns of play in training, but they just emerged through understanding each other and understanding the sort of the way we played.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been so engaging. I mean, we could do a Q&A for an hour with these three, but can I just ask you, on behalf of the Association of Former Manchester United Players, to show your appreciation, Johnny Evans, Anthony Cole and Gary Neville.
We're just doing a presentation to
So, Gary and Johnny are just going to present this to Andrew. It's from the Association of Former Manchester United Players. We've got Massimo, do you want to come in the middle? And we'll just capture this moment, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Association of Former Manchester United Players, to our special guest this evening, Mr. Andrew Cole, presented by Johnny and Gary. Sir Alex, would you like to come up just for a photograph as well, please, if you don't mind? I think we should give Sir Alex a round of applause as well. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Alex. Okay, Massimo. Cheers. Okay. There we are. When you're ready, Massimo. I'll just jump in for a quick one here with him. Just because never want to miss an opportunity, Coley. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Neville, Johnny Evans. Thank you.
Now, if you want to help the AFMUP carry on, either as a sponsor or by buying tickets for future events, please contact Jim Elms at the AFMUP. Jim's email is jim.elms100@gmail.com. Or get in touch with me and I'll share your details with Jim.
2.5, final offer, final bid, going. Sold to Gary Neville. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.